Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Greidick. I'm Dr. Martha Greidick. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. One of the important components of working for a living is taking time off on a regular basis, or at least that's the theory. Taking a vacation or having a vacation available to you, some kind of paid time off, or even paid sick leave, is part of the benefits and salary negotiation when you agree to work for a company. And yet, so often we forget all about that part of our compensation. Every single year, thousands and thousands of paid time off or vacation days and sick days go unused by thousands of people around the world. There are many reasons why that is. Some of those reasons go back to the individuals who don't take their time off, and some of that may be related to the company, the organization, and its culture. But the bottom line is that this is something that definitely needs to be remedied. Working without taking regular breaks, and I don't mean going home for the night or having the weekend off. I'm talking about scheduled, prolonged time off, such as a vacation of sorts, is an important part of having a happy, healthy, and balanced life. If we were to ask 100 people as to why they don't take time off, we would probably get 100 different answers. Sometimes it's simply because they don't think about it, or they feel like they can't afford to take time off because of their workload. Some people don't take time off because they may worry about the security of their jobs. Many people don't take any of their sick leave time because they don't get sick. However, it's still very, very important that we revisit this whole idea of having time off from work. There used to be a time in history where people did not get a vacation as part of their compensation from a job, from an employer. If we were to truly remember and realize what working life was like before we came to have vacations and sick days as part of our normal and expected compensation from an employer, I think that we might be inspired to take our time off more regularly. Many people from decades ago who did not have these benefits would have considered them luxuries, and here we are taking them for granted. Many people had to fight so that one day employees would have simple benefits such as paid time off and sick time. Let's remember that so that we may look at paid time off and vacation time in a different light and appreciate it for what it is and take advantage of it, not let it either go unused at the end of the calendar or fiscal year, or some companies allowed employees to get a payout for the vacation that they did not use. Either way, we're missing the point, the importance of taking time off on a regular basis. But beyond just taking time off, I want to underline the importance of actually taking a vacation. There's a big difference between doing things such as taking time off and staying at home. People have come to call these staycations. And there is definitely a time and a place for that. Maybe it's not the right timing to go away on a vacation. Maybe it's not within your means at this time. Or maybe you simply have some projects to tackle at home. Again, there's a time and a place for that. But it's also very, very important to change scenery and go away. Go on an actual vacation on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to take a tour around the world. You don't have to go to another country. You can do something that is within your means. But the point is to get out of your job by taking a vacation and get out of your house, get out of your town, go somewhere where you will be allowed to have a change of scenery and do things that are enjoyable to you, whatever that is. If that means going camping, then go camping. If that means visiting a city and visiting museums or going to shows or whatever it means to you, or experiencing different cuisines or new restaurants, whatever you like, that's what you should do on vacation, because the idea of a vacation is to help you relax and recharge and help you to work off the stresses of your everyday life and of your job. This is why it's so important to take a vacation on a regular basis. There are so many possibilities to consider in terms of how to use your time off. You could go on a genuine bona fide vacation where you take a week or longer off and travel somewhere to enjoy yourself. Or you could break up your vacation into shorter chunks of time, maybe creating a long weekend for yourself and using that time, a combination of the weekend and a couple of days of time off, as your shorter or mini vacation. But again, the idea is to do something away from your job, away from your home, so that you are actually going somewhere and enjoying your time, making it a special time to recharge and relax and enjoy life without worrying about work. And that brings me to my next point. No checking emails, no working remotely. That's not what a vacation is for. And again, I know that some of you will argue that there's a time and a place when you absolutely have to. But if you were to give it some serious consideration, most people probably don't really have to. There would be very few of you out there who are so tied down to your job to where you can't even take a vacation. And if that's the case, maybe that's a different conversation to have altogether. Another option that I'd like to introduce for you to consider are day trips. There's much to be said for taking a day, getting out of town, and doing something enjoyable. You could leave early in the morning and come back late at night, but it allows you to take a mini vacation, if you will. A day trip could still count. So your creativity is your best friend here. Use your imagination in terms of how you can use your time off. But please, don't let your time off go unused. And if your employer allows for you to cash out your time off if you don't use it by a certain date or by the end of the year, as tempting as that may seem, it's not much of a benefit at that point, because you miss the entire point of having the ability to take time off from work, which is what everybody needs in order to have a healthy and balanced life. The other consideration are sick days. Many people never take their sick days because they don't get sick. But just because you're healthy and don't get sick, why should that benefit that was negotiated as part of your compensation not be used? Sick days don't have to be used solely when you get sick. You should be able to use a sick day as a planned day where perhaps you have a regular scheduled doctor's visit, your annual visit, or whatever the case may be. So you don't have to actually be sick to use a sick day. So think about how you can use up your sick days without losing that benefit. Now, some people are less of a gambler than others, and you may not feel comfortable using up your sick days for things such as doctor's appointments or having a mental health day. That's another good reason or good way to use up a sick day. You may want to have those sick days in case of some kind of an emergency, unforeseen sickness or an accident. And that's fine. That's something that you have to decide for yourself. But I'm bringing up this whole idea of not letting your sick days go to waste because so many people do exactly that. Just because they're healthy and they don't get sick, somehow they never use that particular benefit. It's almost like punishing yourself for being healthy and strong and not missing work. Other people don't use their sick days because they save them, even when they don't feel well, they save them for when they're really, really sick. Reconsider that. Again, it's a personal choice. Some people are more likely to gamble with their sick days than others. But I invite you to give that some thought. What are you waiting for? If you're always waiting for that disaster and it never happens, you have a benefit that you're not using, essentially. So I invite you to consider that. The other part of this conversation is the organization or the employer. If we are surrounded by a culture that promotes healthy life balance and promotes people taking time off on a regular basis, then it's so much easier to use those benefits, the time off and the sick time that comes with the negotiated compensation package when we are hired on by an employer. But if the organization's culture is just the opposite, where it's not encouraged for people to take regular time off, or maybe even frowned upon, or people feel like they're being punished for taking time off or for taking care of themselves, then it's a whole different situation and a whole different conversation. And if that is indeed the culture in which you are working, that's a conversation to have with management. And that is something for organizations to consider. That is something for managers and leaders of organizations to consider. What is your organization like? Are you promoting a healthy life balance? Are you promoting people taking time off on a regular basis? Or are you allowing them to work without a break? Are you allowing them to either lose that benefit at the end of the year, or you're allowing them to cash out on it? That's a big discussion to have within your organization, because it really does contribute to the health of the culture. And a healthy workforce requires a healthy culture, and a healthy culture, one of the many things that it should do is promote well-being of the workforce and a balanced life of every individual within that organization. So that is a conversation and much to consider for the leaders and management of an organization. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. Many people have paid time off or vacation time and even sick time as part of the agreed upon compensation package. That's something between them and their employer. And yet, thousands of vacation days and sick days go unused by many, many people around the world every single year. And while there are many reasons why that happens, the focus of this episode is the importance of taking your vacation, taking your time off. It's important that we find balance in our lives, and balance includes time to disconnect from work and recharge. This is what keeps us happy and healthy, and we can't do that if we work continually without any breaks. And evenings and weekends are not enough of a break. Everybody needs an actual vacation. You can take a longer vacation, you can take a shorter vacation, you can even take a day trip as part of a mini vacation. Do whatever makes you happy, whether you spend your time with family, friends, or by yourself. Have a little me-cation. Nothing wrong with that. The bottom line is that it's critical to not let your vacation go to waste, but rather to take time off on a regular basis so that you have a balanced life experience. The other consideration is sick time. Many people who simply don't get sick lose that benefit at the end of the year. It may be worth your time to reconsider using your sick time in other ways, such as using it for days when perhaps you have a scheduled regular doctor's visit, maybe your annual visit or your dentist visit, whatever the case may be. But use those days so that you don't lose the benefit at the end of the year. Take a mental health day and use your sick days for that. You don't have to be actually sick in order to take advantage of that particular benefit. So unless you're very nervous about gambling with your sick time and then actually needing it and not having any left, then you may want to consider using it before you lose it. And finally, every single organization needs to take a close look at its culture and what kinds of behaviors it promotes from their employees. Is the organization promoting health, well-being, and proper life balance, which includes people taking time off on a regular basis? Or is the organization and its culture promoting continued work without any breaks? That can truly make a big difference within the organization, its culture, and its workforce. So there's much to be considered there. As the week unfolds, I invite you to consider your own situation. Are you someone who uses up your vacation time and even your sick time on a regular basis? Or do you let it go to waste? Or maybe you cash out on your vacation time at the end of the year. How does that play in with your health and well-being and your life balance? Are you in a position where you should reconsider your time off and take time off on a regular basis? Or are you doing fine with that? The other thing to consider is the culture of the company where you work. Do they promote healthy life balance and people taking time off on a regular basis? And if not, what conversation could you have with a manager or a leader within that organization to get the conversation started and get things moving in the right direction? And if you are in management or leadership, what is the organization like in terms of promoting health and well-being and a balanced life for your employees? Is there room for improvement? Chances are that there is. So it's your responsibility to get things moving in the right direction. For those of you who experience this podcast in an audio-only version, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. The link for my YouTube channel is in the description below. In addition to the video version of the podcast, my YouTube channel also contains videos that focus on stress management, so I encourage you to check that out. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.